Hey guys, this run is going to be on Dare to Defy 2 Stage 3, and the run here obviously would also work on Sice's Lost Chapter since the fight is essentially the same. The only restriction here is you can't use friend units, so no friend unit used. And this run is also going to be a Sice solo run. I went in pretty deep for Sice, took me about like 480 tickets in total to score all her gear because I skipped her the first time around, so I was pretty committed in using Sice in one way, shape or form. And since many people actually soloed this stage with her, so why not? This way you can also of course preserve your other meta units for further stages in the Dare to Defy 2 series. The Sice solo run on this stage is pretty straightforward. The only real key is buff management because her evasion buff only lasts for 4 turns, and while her LD traps last for 15 turns, they wear out pretty quickly because any action taken by any unit in the field will trigger the trap, so 15 turns of duration won't last that long. In terms of setup, Sice has a 5/5 ultimate weapon, but her high armor is at 0 out of 3. I didn't really have a lot of high armor ingots, so 0 out of 3 will have to do. All passives are equipped except for buff speed up. I decided to remove that just so that her traps will have more turns to play during her force time. Anyway, the main order of things is to firstly, and this is very important, always ensure that she has her evasion up buff. That is the generic buff that you see on top of her, and you get that by using her S1. So anytime when that buff is about to expire, you must use S1 to refresh the buff, otherwise she will obviously lose her evasion and the boss will very quickly kill her off. Force time with Sice, I used a Luna LD call, which isn't really mandatory, but I would recommend using that call, mainly so that you then provide Sice a few consecutive turns, and you can then use this to comfortably set up FR, refresh her evasion, and obviously use her LD traps. Now I actually held off on using her LD all the way until now, when she's in force time, and the only reason for that is I'm trying to conserve her traps so that they will take off during her force time. Pre-force time you can use one LD, there's actually one LD to spare, but because you're not in force time, you don't really get a lot of damage out of the traps before force. And the other reason is that the trap animation does eat up a bit of time, so using it before force really just prolongs the fight. The rest of the fight is just keeping an eye on buffs and debuffs. The most important, like I said, is the evasion up, so that should always be up on Sice and should always be prioritized if it's about to run out. The second would be her LD traps, so assuming she has evasion up, then you need to look at the trap duration and use LD to refresh it when it's about to fall off. And finally, the framed buff that she gets comes from her EX. That isn't as important, so that would be third priority. If both evasion and her traps are still pretty healthy, then you can hit her EX to refresh her EX buff. Other than these 3 skills, you should not use any other skill during this time, so do not use additional ability, it just wastes force time. Do not use S2 because it doesn't grant any of her critical buffs or debuffs. Only use LD, EX or S1 here. On this stage in particular, it does help if you can enter force time right before the bosses do, because when the bosses have high force percentage, they carry a lot of speed down and turn rate down auras, which will significantly slow Sice down, which would then mean that you get a lot more length out of a force time. This is one good example. If you just look at the turn order bar, the bosses will have like 10 turns before Sice gets another turn. All that being said, I think even if the bosses make it to force time before you, doesn't really matter too much. The force attack is not guaranteed hit, so Sice will evade that with her evasion up. And when the bosses come out of force time, although their force gauge will reset to 0, and so they will lose all their turn rate down and speed down auras, I don't think the run is still a failure. You can still probably win the fight with Sice. You may have to enter into a second force time in that scenario, but you can always pop summon and use that time inside summon to charge your force gauge. So it really isn't that big a deal, but I always like to try to win within one force time, and I think this is probably the best way to go about it. If you're doing the Lost Chapters and not the Dare to Defy, and you have access to friend unit, you can consider also of course something like a selfie friend to help you significantly charge the force gauge at the start of the fight. Really, because a lot of the damage in a Sice solo run comes from her often traps, the quicker you can enter force time, the better it is in her run. Overall, my thoughts on Sice: she's actually pretty decent, and she's one of those few often damage dealers where the often damage will trigger no matter who takes an action. Of course, you have your Dragoons such as Kain and Freya who can do that, but beyond that, most other often damage usually will require some sort of attacking move. So this is pretty uncommon still. The fact that she has the 100% evasion means that she can maybe solo quite a number of stages. And one thing that I overlooked before, but it's actually pretty huge for her, is that in her force time, you do get a 50% HP damage cap up if you're hitting for elemental weakness. And this would actually pair extremely well with Penelo, because Penelo also carries another 50% HP damage up. So together with both of them in the field, that's already a 100% cap up, which essentially doubles all the damage that you will do. And you can always combine this with a third unit that also has often damage, such as Kain. And on that note, Kain also has 30% HP damage cap up on his PT aura. I actually have a run with Penelo, Sice and Laguna with a Kain support on the Jesse event, and that's going to be a good showcase on how powerful Sice FR can be in combination with Penelo. At certain thresholds in the fight, which is I think 79%, 49% and I believe 29%, the bosses will get an HP damage shield, but interestingly enough, the value of this shield has not been changed since Sice's debut event. It was 1 million damage shield back then. It is still a 1 million damage shield now, and 1 million really isn't a lot. One trap is enough to destroy the shield, so it's really quite a pointless mechanic at this stage of the game. They should have increased the shield to maybe 4 or 5 million in line with the current meta. So overall, this stage is really pretty simple, and the only thing noteworthy I guess is the bosses have an inflated HP pool. They each have 130 million HP. This time around, depending on your party makeup, one other thing you should note is that each time the bosses enter force time and use their force attack will be stronger upon subsequent use. So the first time that you use it, you'll be Curse Skull ++. The second time, you'll be Curse Skull +++. And the third time that they enter force time, assuming they get that far, is actually an instant game over attack with Curse Skull ++++. To prevent that from happening, you can obviously just win before they enter their third force time. Or alternatively, if you have Sice FR, using Sice's FR will also reset their count back to 0, which means that the next time that they enter force time, they will be back at the regular Curse Skull ++. Sounds very complicated, but the gist of it is that just win before they enter 3 force times and you should be good to go. That's it for this run. As always, I hope the video has been helpful, and if you enjoyed the content, do leave a like, comment and subscribe. Really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you guys in the next Dare to Defy stage. Bye!